This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Bruchim Haba, welcome everyone. We continue in the Iggeres HaRamban, and the Ramban is talking about the degradation of arrogance. The Ramban said, what could a person be arrogant about? Wealth, Hashem gives it as a gift, and He could take it away. Kavod belongs to Ribbon Shalom. Oisher, v'kavod milfanecha. It belongs to God. Ich mispar b'kvod kainai. Wisdom, Hashem could distort that. Says the Ramban, Nimsa hakol shavel lefnei hamakam. Before the Ribbon Shalom, everyone is equal. All are the same. All are equal before the Ribbon Shalom. And then the Ramban ends off, Ki ba'apoy mashbil geim. In his anger, he lowers the arrogant. Uvertsoinai, and according to his will, magbia shefalim, he elevates the low. Lachein. Okay, we'll come to that in a moment. Now the Ramban is paraphrasing what we say in davening, and as Rasavasenu, we say, Ram v'nisa gadav anoira, mashbil geim adei aretz, magbia shefalim adei marim. Let us focus on the fact that the Ramban says, in his anger, he lowers the arrogant. Why does the Ramban add that word? In his anger, he lowers the arrogant. He should. That's not what we say in Tefillah. We say, Mashbal Geim, Umagbiya Shvalim. So why does the Ramban add the word? In his anger, he lowers the arrogant. A very interesting comment of the Rambam in the Moreh Nevuchim. The Rambam in the Moreh Nevuchim, Chelek Aleph, Perek Lamed Vav. The Rambam writes, you should know that when you look in Kol HaTorah Kula and all the works of the Nevi'im, we don't find the expression charoin af or kas only by Avodah Zarah. Va'avadetem Elohim acherim v'chora af Hashem. Pen yechera af Hashem lahachisoi b'maaseh yadechem. Heim kinuni b'loi el ki asuni behavlehem. Madua hichisuni b'fsilehem. Yirmiyah. Mikas banu v'vnoisav. Ki eish kadcha bi'api. Whenever it uses a lashon of anger, it's always in context of Avodah Zarah. So why does the Ramban here say in God's anger, He lowers the haughty? That's because arrogance is like Avodah Zarah. Kol hakoyes ki'ilu oved Avodah Zarah. So since Kol hakoyes ki'ilu oved Avodah Zarah, so the Ramban uses an expression of Ki ba'apoy mashbil geim. By the way, it's interesting. The Rambam writes in Hilchos Deos, the Rambam says, Kol hakoyes ki'ilu oved Avodah Zarah. The question is, if you look in the Gemara in Shabbos and Daf Kuf Hey Amud Beis, the Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara says, Kol hamishaber kelim b'chamasai. Anyone who breaks kelim in his anger. Kol hakorea begadav b'chamasai. So, you be'inecha kilo oved avodah zarah. The Gemara doesn't quite say what the Rambam says. The Rambam says, if somebody gets angry, it should be in their eyes like they served avodah zarah. And the Gemara says that's only if you act violently in your anger and you break things, only then it's considered like you're oved avodah zarah. And this is the question of the Maharitz Chiyos. Where did the Rambam get this from? If you look in the Shalas Tshuvos Yad Eliezer, he brings that the makar of the Rambam is the Zohar HaKadosh. Because the Zohar HaKadosh says in Parshas Tetzaveh that arrogance is like a Kael Nechar, a foreign god. And in Bereshis, the Zohar says explicitly that Kol HaKoyes Ki'ilu Oved Avodah Zarah. But now we understand why the Ramban says God in His anger lowers the arrogant, because arrogance is like Avodah Zarah, and the word anger is always associated with Avodah Zarah. Now, the Maral in the Sefer Ber Hagoyla Be'er Haravi Parak Aleph says there are other places in Tanakh where the lashon of anger is used, not only by Avodah Zarah. So the Maral says the Rambam doesn't mean that the expression of anger is not found at all except for by Avodah Zarah, just that it is found in the context of Avodah Zarah because it is a chait that contravenes the will of Hashem. So anytime there's a serious chait that flies in the face of the Ratzon of Hashem, so we find an expression of charoinaf. But again, it is very meduyak that the Ramban uses a lashon of ki ba'apoy mashbal geim, as gaiva is akin to avodah zarah. Now, the Ramban concludes this paragraph, L'chein hashbel atzmecha, therefore lower yourself, v'yinasecha hamakim, and God will elevate you. Lower yourself, and God will elevate you. It's interesting, the Gemara says in Adarim, Adaf Samach Beis, it says, Tanya la'ahavas Hashem leikecha, l'shmaya bekoiloi, u'ledav kaboi, that a person should not say, I'll learn Chumash so that they call me a Chacham, I'll learn Mishnah so that they call me Rabbi, I'll learn so that I'll be a Zaken v'yeshe b'yeshiva. Learn out of Ahava and the Kavod will come. So Rabbi Aaron Leib Steinman asks in the Ayalas HaShachar, what you should learn so that the Kavod should come, then you're learning for Kavod. So Rabbi Aaron Leib Steinman says it doesn't mean that you should do it so that the Kavod comes. You should do it, Lishma. But just know that the reality is that ultimately the kavod will come. Now, one last thing over here. The Ramban says, lower yourself so that Hashem will elevate you. Where will Hashem elevate you? In this world? In the next world? So the Gemara in Shabbos says on Daf Kuf Daled, Ne'eman kafuf, ne'eman pashat. There's a bent nun and a straight nun. That represents a straight, a bent over faithful person and a straight faithful person. So the Gemara says, an Adam Kasher needs to be an Anav, and in the end he will be straight and tall in Olam Haba. In Bab Mitzvah Daf Pei Daled, Rav Goldberg quotes, Kol hamaktin atzmai al divrei Torah ba'olam hazeh nasa gadol Olam Haba. Says the Sefer Chasidim, anyone who lowers himself in Olam Hazeh and has the capacity to have power and prestige and be a parnas over the tzibur, but he doesn't want the majesty, like the Bnei Beseira who stepped down from the Nesius in deference to Hillel, will be a roish in Olam Haba. Says the Mesilas Yesharim, Kol mi shehu gadol ba'olam hazeh, katan hu ba'olam haba. And someone who's katan ba'olam hazeh will be a gadol ba'olam haba. However, says Rav Goldberg, even though this is certainly referring to olam haba, that if you lower yourself in this world, God will elevate you, but it could also be referred to this world as well. The Gemara Moed Katan says, anyone who learns Torah privately, quietly, modestly, the Torah will call out and attract attention to the person outside. He didn't say anything, he didn't tell anybody. But whatever Torah you learn privately, people will know about it. The Medrash Tanchuma says, if a person hides in a hiding place, and he's oisek b'Torah, Hashem says, I'll show him to people. And Rav Goldberg quotes the same Gemara, La'ahavas Hashem leikecha l'shmaya b'koiloi l'davka bay, shelo yoymar adam ekra sheyikru'uni chacham, ekra eshna sheyikru'uni Rabbi, but rather lamed me'ahava v'soif ha'kavod lavai. Now, what good is the kavod? Why is it a reward even to get the kavod? I thought the kavod belongs to Hashem. So the answer is that if somebody has honor, you could be mashpia on them. You can be mashpia on people, like we find Hashem was mavarich Avram Avinu. I will bless you, I will make you great, because if Avraham had money, and he had a name, and he had recognition, he'll be more influential. But since you didn't learn for that reason, it won't take off from your credit. So this is what the Ramban says. We shouldn't try to elevate ourselves. We should modestly perform the mitzvahs, and in the end, the soif hakavod lavai. Okay, Rabbi said we'll continue as Hashem next week. Everyone's invited to join. Streaming live tonight, 7:45 is a Chazak Shir on the Pesach Sefer, and then 8:30 Zoom and streaming live. A very amazing subject about whether wanting to do a mitzvah is as good as doing the mitzvah itself. Very interesting material. And tomorrow, 2:30 Shimru. Wishing everybody a wonderful evening. Kol Tov.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.